Let's go to the phones. You're calling from a 372 area code. Who's this?
Good morning, Sam. This is Jesse, a long-time listener, first-time caller. Love your show. I'm calling today about Brexit.
Okay.
I feel like I have a very unique perspective on it, if you wouldn't mind giving me some time on that.
Do tell.
I was born and raised in England in a labor and a trade union household in Liverpool. My parents are somewhere to the left of Bernie Sanders. I don't say that in an exaggeration. It's a fact. I grew up going to trade union pubs and going along the picket lines of miners in the 80s in Thatcher's Britain. So I'm well aware of what working class people have dealt with and are dealing with in those areas. And it's interesting, your last caller brought up places like Sunderland and Newcastle. He makes a very good point, but I'd like to just go over some misconceptions about this vote. And one of the biggest misconceptions is this is primarily based on nativism. It is not. It's definitely a part of this, but it is not the whole. And the whole, to me, as a Labour person who grew up in that environment and background, is Labour's move away from its voting base. That's coming home to roost. You saw it initially in Scotland. When I was 14 and 15 years old, there were no seats in Scotland that were not Labour. The SNP very occasionally won a seat. It was news when they did. Now, well, the results speak for themselves. That is beginning to infiltrate the northeast, the northwest, and the working class parts of Britain that for years Labour has taken for granted. We're going to get these votes. We don't need to do anything. That's what produces people like Blair and Miliband having a complete tin ear to their voting base. And I'm not saying that the Brexit vote was the right thing to do. It wasn't. I was against it. I was thoroughly against it. But this comparison that is now being made to American politics is complete silliness. It is just not the same. The British voting electorate are very, very different. I'll give you a prime example. My dad is a full-blown atheist, a left-wing atheist with a PhD in linguistics that voted for Brexit. How do you stereotype that into a comparison for American voters? You just don't. Religion doesn't play a factor. Cultural and working class ideals in Britain are far different. We have a parliamentary system. It makes it different. And when someone like my dad makes that vote, he's not making it based on hatred and vitriol and ignorance. He's making a logical decision. I may not agree with it, but it's a logical decision. And my dad is the model of the Labour voter that has been ignored and disenfranchised.
Well, let me just ask a question and bring up a point. One is just explain to us what I'm not contesting anything here, but explain to us what the logic is. Well, we'll start with that. I mean, what is the internal logic? Because I'm not challenging it as much as like I really have no sense of what it would be.
Well, it comes down to when you look at Blair and Miliband, they're corporatists. They have a self-interest to promote corporatism. In essence, it's created this wealth gap where the gap between them connecting to their voters and being able to relate that to the betterment of Britain it's just grown exponentially. Then you put into the circles that they move in Europe, and everybody's connected to that. Now, does that make it right? I'd say no, but it's a stigma that's attached to all these European leaders. Basically, as a working class person in Sunderland who doesn't have a job anymore, is struggling to get by, and has been continually told by Labour and European leadership, just vote for us, we'll make it right. And they never have. And they're reaching out for something different. It doesn't make it right, but it's understandable why.
I see. I mean, I see what you're getting at. So there's just simply an association between those politicians who have failed them, and they associate them with the EU. I mean, I think the only and let me just make this point that from the exit polling, anyways, for what it's worth, it appears that something like 75% of labor voted for Remain. And I guess it's the loss of that 25% coupled with, I guess, the cross section of older folks and conservatives that had, that push exit over the top. And I guess, and also I would say, like, do you not see an analog, at least in the sense that in this country, there is, I mean, there is this perspective of the Democratic Party also being corporatist in this way. I mean, on some level, the difference is that there's not an outlet really to because we have a two-party system and because we're not having, I mean, maybe the outlet would be if we had a referendum on the TPP or something, but there's not the same outlet here. But there is that same frustration on some level, don't you think?
Yes, but let's put it into context just a moment. Just think about it from this point of view. You're a working class labor voter, and I understand what you say about the 75%, but that 75% doesn't entail what is considered basically the labor base. The labor base is a working class man and woman from an industrial part of the country.
Okay.
Stereotypically the North. So you're asking that voter to vote with David Cameron. You see the problem there?
Yeah.
I do. It's fairly, you just asked them to vote for the conservative they voted against in the public election. And you have a labor leader, if you watched him on television, was lukewarm towards Brexit, to Brexit Remain, to say the least. He was hardly waving the European flag. He was on the Remain side, but his enthusiasm was at best tenuous.
Right.
And you put all that into the mix and you begin to see why so many people reacted the way they did. I'm not saying it's right. I'm trying to give you a perspective of why that voter voted that way.
Right. Okay. Well, no, I get it. And I think that, I think, that would explain maybe, a percentage of the vote. And it's, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks. Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.